Hey everyone, in this video I'll talk about the 7 lessons that I learned as an entrepreneur on an extreme version of personal development for about 10 years. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Achil Prabhat Rudolph. I'm a social confidence coach and I help predominantly South Asian men who want to learn the confidence that is necessary to attract the right partner for a long-term relationship in the West without dating apps. And for anyone who has thought even just a little bit about this topic of dating, you'll realize that you can't really get good at dating unless you get good at personal development. You have to become a compelling, a powerful, a charismatic person in order to attract the right partner. And you have to learn how to communicate your value. And that's something I am still working on myself. And my business is about teaching others how to get really good at this, but I still want to get better at this myself. And I do that mainly by communicating with you guys. I figured it out in the dating context, but I'm still figuring it out here on YouTube, in videos. And this is a journey that I think will never stop. And I've gotten kind of addicted to it. And me being on this video right now is a step for me to get better at this. And it's always a bit anxiety inducing for me, even now. And especially on days like today where I didn't get extremely good sleep, you can probably see that. I look at myself a few minutes before the video and I think, is this really the right time? Am I not too tired? I look weird. And then I just push that button. And usually I push it 5-6 times before I just let it run and say, it's okay. Let me just say what I have to say. And what really helps me is to become more and more unfiltered, more and more raw, because oftentimes when you're performing, when you're talking to a group or a stranger or an audience, you want to seem trustworthy, you want to seem like an expert, you want to seem like someone who has it all figured out. But that makes it inauthentic and that makes it exhausting because you're playing a version that's not really you. And so in this video I said, no, I'm just gonna say what I really think. I'm not gonna try to make you trust me or try to make you believe me more. I'll just say what I really have to say. And that includes the dark sides. That includes the struggle. But obviously it includes a lot of learnings too, that I don't want you to necessarily have to make yourself with years of dabbling around. So I said, I want to make this video. I want to make it in a way there where if I was to die tomorrow, God forbid, I would look back at this video and say, I'm proud that this was my last work. And the occasion that led me to make this video was that I realized recently that it was around, or pretty much exactly 10 years ago, that I started this whole journey of personal development and entrepreneurship. This was around 2014, where I realized that life is just too incredible to not make the most out of it. I wanted to do something that I really love doing in this time that I have on planet Earth. And I dropped out of the PhD program that I was part of. And I started just trying out all kinds of things. But amazingly, I found the right books at the right time that encouraged me to make that step, and started reading like David Data back then, or Man's Search for Meaning, all these books that are supposed to help you figure out your purpose. And of course also Tony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within. And that book, like most personal development books, had some exercises in it. And I remember I was traveling in Amsterdam at the time, and I was sitting in that hotel lobby and I read that book, and it was asking me to write something down. I'd never read a book before that asked me to write something. And so I hesitatingly took out a notepad, or maybe I wrote it on my laptop, I don't remember, and started writing. Started writing what my goals are in life, what I'm actually good at, what I want. At the same time, I was also visiting the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. And I was so delighted when I saw that Van Gogh, the famous painter, only started seriously painting when he was 27. And I was younger than 27 at that point. But I was already scared that I shouldn't change life path. I'd already almost completed my education. I'd gotten a PhD almost. It felt like too late. My Indian family would also not approve of this move because they thought that it was already time to get married. How can you just start a new career at this point? But when I saw that Van Gogh, one of the greatest painter of all times, started at 27 and only had like 15, 20 years to create all that stuff, I said, then why not me? Why should I not be able to start something completely new in my 20s? So it really empowered me, and I started writing. And that is also the very first lesson that I want to share with you here. Writing is the ultimate personal development superpower. If you can write, order your thoughts, articulate your thoughts, ideally with a bit of a system where you don't just write on a little scratch of paper that you find, but you have a place where you put the stuff that you write. You have a system for how to capture ideas that just come to you and put them into that place. If you have a system like that, you will start to have more ideas. That was one of the major first breakthroughs when I started this whole process and started writing. I started quite early putting all my notes in a digital system because I realized that if I have them all in one place, if I can access them easily, I can just keep adding on to those notes. And I just walk around in the streets, I have an idea and I know where to put it. And that became fun. I was almost like on a safari constantly looking for valuable thoughts that would just pop out of nowhere. And then when I saw it, I would capture it, put it in the system. And that way I built that second brain that kept accumulating all the wisdom that was already within me. It took me a while to figure out how this writing system could really work. But now I think that second brain has potentially more information than my real brain can access at any point. Because that second brain that I wrote into over the last 10 years has all the important thoughts from those 10 years accumulated over time. And now it feels like my head is like a stove with multiple plates, with multiple pots cooking. And some of the ideas are like bubbling up and I can just see them jumping up and I know where to put them. Some ideas are in the back of my brain. They're like still simmering. And it's almost exhausting for me now to keep up with the speed of thoughts that pop up. I can just go through my day and not do anything except capture good thoughts that pop up in my brain. That's for me a real superpower. And that's where all the inspiration comes from for all these videos that I make, for all those Instagram short reels that I make, for all the little experiments that I run in my business. Of course, that thinking with the help of a pen is also more structured and more free from contradiction, free from ambiguity, because you can't write a sentence that just doesn't make any sense. You'll have to decide for one side of the coin, because in your mind you often have conflicting views, two ideas that completely contradict each other, and they just exist alongside each other. And you don't even know what you're really thinking. But if you write, you have to write the one side first and then the other side. And yes, they can contradict each other, but now you've separated the two because the one is on top, the other one is below. So you become clear about where your contradictions lie. You can't easily overlook them when they're on paper. And that provides motivation to resolve them. That helps you figure out what you actually think, what you actually want for yourself as well. You'll be motivated to write down what you actually want. You'll make a decision. And if there's a part of you that wants this, a part of you that wants that, you'd be like, okay, probably I should take an hour, think about it, and actually make a decision. I would say 90% of the problems that people face in personal development are because one part of them wants something and the other part of them wants something else. And they just never bother to make a decision, and so they don't get either. But then from there, it was still a long process until I actually discovered my purpose. I first tried filmmaking. That was the first idea I had. I thought, I'm really interested in documentary film. After a while, it became clear that that was not going to make me much money, and I didn't want to live poorly. I tried out marketing. I went into software engineering. And then I got into this whole area of social skills, coaching. But it was really an iterative process. And for me, it was just important to have that list. Again, through writing, it became clear to me that there's like 5 or 6 things that I might be interested to pursue in my life. And then to just try them all out one by one. And so that's the second big lesson that I want to share with you, especially if you're in the beginning of figuring out what you really want to do with your life. Make a list and then try those things out and follow the signals that you get from the world through taking action, through trying these things out. And one signal that I got a lot was after a couple of years of trying something out, it was like, yeah, I'm not sure, this is not super fun for me, or this is way too hard for me. For example, I was in the economics PhD program, and while on paper it made sense for me to contribute to science, I thought that is a great way to bring the world ahead. I looked at those papers, I looked at those equations, and to be very honest, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't understand what the economists were doing and how other economists were just reading 5 papers a day and then writing one on top of that. That was just not what my brain was willing to really do. And I don't know if it's because of the intelligence, my capacity, or whether I didn't have that drive, that passion for this subject, or I didn't see the value of these studies. But another signal that I often got was just, hey, this is way too hard. This is way too hard. This is hard and not even too enjoyable. But after getting that signal for 2 or 3 times when I tried different things, well, I realized that basically everything is going to be hard. If you want to be good at it, if you want to be great at it, it's definitely going to be extremely hard. And so part of that lesson is also that just something being extremely hard should not be a reason to stop. You need to find something where you're willing to go through that hardship. You need to find something where you're willing to go all in and say, I'm going to do this no matter what. I will not give up just because it's hard. And of course, that requires a lot of love. It requires a lot of passion, a lot of feeling of being called to do this. And that happened for me, luckily, after the 4th or 5th things that I tried, and I kind of kept the very difficult things for the end. So it kind of became harder because I first said, hey, why don't I just try the things that I could easily try out that don't require me to learn too much. And when that didn't work, I moved on to the more difficult idea on my list of things that potentially could be my purpose. And then I moved on. And that's why I ended up at entrepreneurship. And I think part of the reason that I ended up there was also that it was the hardest thing on the list. What I'm doing now, helping people become more confident who had all sorts of challenges in their lives and who don't even believe that they can become more confident oftentimes. For me, it's one of the most difficult things that anyone can do in the world. It's on a level for me with building rockets that fly to Mars. And for me, that was just the edge of what I thought I could potentially achieve. It was just on the edge of the imaginable. And I liked that fact. Because that fact made me realize that I have to become the very best version of myself to stand a chance of accomplishing that goal. And that's what I recommend. Choose the most difficult thing for yourself from that list that you can imagine, that you, when you start doing it, kind of enjoy. And even though it's going to be hard, even though part of you will want to give up, know that it will always be hard. And if it's hard and you give up, it basically means that you didn't love it enough. And that's also fine. You just move on to the next thing. And when you have found that thing, it's amazing because it's going to be hard, but you're still going to do it. And you're going to be very happy doing it, even if it doesn't necessarily work that well. It's not going to work that well if it's something very hard. And so you'll set the expectations very low for yourself. For me, when I started off, I said, if I can just help one person, one shy, introverted tech guy, immigrant in Germany, for example, then I'm happy. If I can transform the life of one person who didn't believe that they could ever turn into a confident communicator, and I can make them a confident communicator, then I can die happy. And that happened. And even now I say, I don't need to reach millions. If I just manage to help a few dozen of people in my life, I'm absolutely happy and I'm on a good way there. And sometimes it doesn't work so well, and sometimes I feel like I'm failing, and in the beginning I was often failing. But it's okay because I loved that process so much, and I was so fascinated by the fact that it is actually possible, something that no one believed was possible, that my parents didn't support, that the society didn't really support, no one understood what I was doing, was actually working, and I had discovered that. So I kept going, and even when there was no money coming in, I said, I'm going to go. I'm going to keep going. I keep going until I can't pay the bills. And the moment I realize next month I'm not going to be able to pay the bills, that's when I take a job. You can always take a job, you know that. And sometimes you might have to take a job. But if you love that, and if you are really fascinated and in love with that pursuit, then you're going to work just as much as is needed to pay those bills and put all the other energy into the project and continue alongside with the job. As soon as you have some momentum again, you quit that job and you jump all in again. You try to make it work another round, pushing hard. You'll realize that last time you didn't push hard enough, it didn't work. Can you push harder? Can you push smarter? And then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. You take another job. Third or fourth round, it's going to work. And even if not, it's going to work because you feel happy like that and you make progress. And pushing yourself like that and accepting all that insecurity will cause you trouble. When I say it's hard, that sounds kind of harmless. What that really means is your body will suffer, ultimately. Your body and your mind will suffer. There's just no way around that when you're doing something really hard. For me, I see it as a confirmation of the fact that I'm doing something hard when my body suffers a bit. And if my body wasn't suffering a bit, I would question whether I'm pushing myself hard enough. Probably I'm pushing myself a little bit too hard right now. You can see that. A lot of people talk about the patches in my beard. Yes, that is stress related. I don't get a lot of sleep right now. I get like 4 hours, 5 hours in a good night. I wear those health problems as a badge of honor, to be quite honest. I say, yeah, of course I'm struggling. I'm doing something hard, man. And of course I'm going to try to get past that. I'm going to try to be extremely healthy as well. It's not something I want to suffer from indefinitely, but it's a phase right now where I'm going to say yes. What I'm doing is hard. It's still in the beginning, still early stage. I'm doing something crazy that no one else dares to do. Most people don't even want to work with Indians, like dating coaches. Like a lot of dating coaches just don't want to work with Indians because they know it's almost impossible to get them any kinds of results and real personal transformation. There are so many cultural barriers, so many hurdles. It's incredible what you have to do to help people in that demographic. And I say, yeah, I'm taking that on. It's a real David versus Goliath situation here. And of course I'm gonna get bruised. What are you thinking? And apart from that, we're all gonna get old anyways. You're gonna die doing something. It's a beautiful feeling when you get old and visibly get old doing something you really love. And if that accelerates your aging a little bit, so what? I'd rather die 3 years earlier fighting Goliath than live 5 years longer chilling on a beach in Ibiza. But obviously for all of that to work, you need a support system. You cannot do this on your own completely. And so since I don't have a business partner, I tried working with people, but it never really worked. They never really got the exact idea and the mission and the drive that I had. The second best thing is to have really great friends and peers, people who are on similar missions themselves, people who are also going for something big in their lives, not happy to just numb themselves with easy pleasure. There are lots of people like that, and when you find them, you'll become best friends because they can sense that you're serious. They can sense that you're after something. They can sense that passion, and they want that around themselves because they know they need it too. You can't have enough of those people around you, and so everyone is looking for those people who is in that situation. And there are so many people. I can't begin to tell you how many people are out there who are trying to get into that mode where they just go all in and say, let's go, commit. But they're not able to do that because something is holding them back, because they're still full of fear. And when they see someone like me who's going all the way in, says, I don't care what anyone says, I'm going to do this. They want to be around you. They're going to follow you. You're going to build bonds that last a lifetime, and you're going to have incredible adventures together. They're also going to help you figure it out because they'll have knowledge that you don't have. They'll point you to the right resources. They'll tell you about the events that are happening. Apart from peers, you also need mentors, people who've already gone certain aspects of your path, who've clearly reached a stage that you want to reach. There's lots of mentors out there. Oftentimes they'll all say very different things, and the key here is to listen to those people only who actually have gotten to the point where you want to be. It's so incredible to me that so many people in the space of dating are listening to the advice from pickup artists when all they really want is a loving relationship. Like, if you want a loving relationship, people who have thousands of short-term relationships and never really arrive, probably not the people you should be listening to. They might make a lot of sense. They might be extremely good at talking and persuasive. But their track record is that whatever they preach, whatever they live, hopefully that's the same, has not led them to where you want to be. Of course, you should try to get the best coaches possible. Like, when I read a book and I really like it, I try to get in touch with that person. And more often than not, there is a way to approach that person. Often it's too expensive, of course. Often it's too hard. If you cannot afford the best coaches, then just go to the second best coaches. The good thing is that the second best coaches learn from the best coaches. So the information, the most important things will trickle down to you. If you don't have that, if you don't at least have access to a kind of group setting where you have a mentor who's coaching a group of people, if you don't have that option to ask the person a question and get their unfiltered opinion, not filtered through the censorship of the public sphere, then you're always going to have that fear that maybe you're missing something. That maybe there's a piece of the puzzle missing. Probably there's not, but you'll have that fear. Everything is already out there. You'll find everything on the internet. All the important things, you already know them. I can guarantee you that. But you need to be very sure about that. And then in some specific areas, there is knowledge that's not so easily available. So you need to be able to ask someone who's an expert, who you trust, hey, am I missing something? And they'll usually say, no, that's it. And then you're like, okay, now I'm ready to go all in and actually execute. Go meet these people in person. It's just such a game changer. When you met someone in person, you feel like, wow, now they're really on my team. They're my friend. And I read this book by Eckhart Tolle a long time ago. And yeah, it was pretty insightful. It was not like my favorite book, but he's in Germany now. I said, okay, I'm going to go and meet him. He has an event in another city. It's like 5-6 hours away, but I'll take that day. Just to see that guy, to make sure that I re-engage with the material, because I have a feeling that it might even be valuable for me to reread that book, and to have the feeling that he's actually a mentor of mine. I'm going to be sitting in an audience with 1,000 people, but just because I'm going to be in the same room with him, I will feel like now he is a mentor of mine. Of course, this also goes for forming romantic relationships. That also is a great source of support in this phase where you're struggling through the initial phases of building something, getting started on that personal development journey. It's great when you can find someone who can go the way with you. That's a great way of stabilizing that bond and making it special, because you don't feel like you've gone all the way alone and then you kind of deserve this partner as a prize in the end. No, they were there before you were visibly successful. They believed in you. They were your first investor. And that's going to make that person so special, and that's going to strengthen your relationship, and it's going to make all the other women that might be a temptation for you later on just no match. When there's problems in that relationship, you might be tempted to just run away, but there's a lot of value in just staying in the relationship and working through those problems. Not just with romantic partners, also with friends. It's great practice to accept problems and not run away from them. And as long as you see that you're growing through that, you're getting to be a better person as a result of the problems in your relationships, then you should probably stay in that relationship. Make it work. The fourth extremely important lesson is that you must learn from mistakes. And this sounds so trivial. Everyone says that. But what does that really mean? It's shocking to me how few people actually understand what it means, and how even fewer people do it. Learning from mistakes means that you notice when you make a mistake. And you don't suppress that. You don't just say, oh yeah, I fucked up, move on. You look at that regularly. And whenever you make a mistake, you take a moment to write down what you did wrong and what you could have done better to avoid that, and what the underlying principle was that misguided you in that situation. I have a note. It's right here. Every single time I make a mistake, even small mistakes, tiny mistakes, but when it's clear that it's a mistake, there's a new entry into my life lessons note. And the lessons are really trivial. Sometimes I write down really extremely small situations where I clearly did something wrong. For example, the other day I made my juice in the morning. It's part of my morning ritual. I make a celery juice. And I placed the juicer on the machine. I put in the vegetables. I started the juice process. And when I came back, the juice was all over the kitchen counter. It was really tragic because that juice is important for my morning ritual. So being the thrifty person I am, I actually did suck up some of that juice from the counter. But obviously I was annoyed. I had left the cap, the kind of exit cap of the juicer open while making the juice. So the juice was just flowing out and I didn't have a container or a glass on the other side. That had never happened to me before in 1 or 2 years of making juices. So I was like, wow, that's a little learning here. When I place the juicer on the juice grinder or whatever that machine is, I need to make sure that the cap is closed or I have a glass there. So that's the lesson I wrote down. It's in my life lessons 2024. Writing this down makes it less likely that I'm going to do this mistake again. It's a tiny mistake. Not exactly tiny, but very trivial in a way. That's what it means for me to learn from mistakes. When you do mistakes like that, you place your chain in the wrong place in the gym where you end up losing it. You don't clean the toilet after going for number 2 and your girlfriend finds out and she's a bit annoyed. All that stuff goes into my life lessons. And of course, there's more deep stuff. There's, of course, stuff that is more about relationships and complex. But I even learn from mistakes I do in my dreams. That's what it means for me to learn from mistakes. In dreams, you make mistakes, right? Sometimes fatal mistakes. Sometimes you make a mistake in your dream which leads to you dying. And you're like, damn, the dream is over. I would have loved for this to go on, but I took the wrong turn there. I get up in those moments and I go to that life lessons note and I write down my learning from the dream. The other day I had a dream where I checked in to my flight at the airport and I had like a lot of luggage and I took some of it in my hand, the other stuff I put into the check-in. And then for some reason I decided that no, I wanted to take the checked in baggage into my hand luggage. And so I went back to the counter, got my whole luggage, went to the check-in, to the boarding actually, and then they said, no, you can't take that. And it's also too late to put it back into check-in. And I couldn't take the flight. It was just a dream. Still, it's a mistake I did. And I don't want to make that mistake in reality. So I said, I'm going to write this down. When traveling with lots of baggage by flight and after you've already checked in your baggage and have a way to make it work in accordance to all the weight and size regulations, don't change it last minute. Simple lesson. Now you have an idea of what I mean when I say learn from mistakes. Now, lesson number 5. Do things as well as you can right now, easily. Okay, do things as well as you can easily right now, instead of trying to push yourself to be as good as you would want it to be. I'll give you an example again. This video, I could have spent like 2 more days preparing it, scripting it out, trying to really practice my delivery here. And then maybe it would have been a better video. Maybe more people would have followed me up to this point. But I said, no, I'm going to just do it as good as I can right now with my natural skills, with me just standing here having a rough outline. And it doesn't have to be perfect. There will be gaps, there will be mistakes, there will be pauses like the one just before this point because I didn't know what the point was and my computer didn't have internet because I like to be focused when I do these videos, and then I switched the notes and I couldn't load the old note. That's going to happen. And I'm just going to be fine with that. And say that's where I am right now, naturally. That's where I am with the current being, where I don't have to push myself too much. I don't have to artificially create a super complex recording system. I don't have to hire someone to edit and record me with the perfect lighting. No, that's where I am right now. And that is easy. Like making a video like this for me right now is easy. But guess what? I did that for 2 years now. And when I started making these videos, it was very hard just to get anything out of my mouth and into the camera. And now, because I've gotten a lot of repetition, it's easy. And when you do it like that, where you just put out the output that you can easily put out without pushing yourself too much. You get a lot of repetition in. You get to make a lot of videos. And then your baseline, okay, the natural state improves. Your natural skills, without having to prepare, improve. Now I'm confident that I can just go in front of this camera, speak for 50 minutes or, 40 minutes, depending how long this video will go, without having to prepare a lot. Because I did it so many times. If I was to always push myself hard, it would take so much longer to make one video. It would be painful to make one video. I will have some painful experiences with that, much more painful than right now, the way I'm doing it. And so maybe some of the videos will be a bit better, but the growth will be much slower. So right now, because I've done it so many times, my videos are consistently at a good level without me having to exert a lot of effort. And they're still getting better slowly. That's the idea I want to express here. Do things as good as they naturally come to you right now. This also applies to when you go out and want to learn to talk to people and get better with your social skills. A lot of people have to do all kinds of warm-up exercises and get drunk and smoke a joint before they can go to a club. They have to push themselves to that level where they're like, now I can be social. It's the same thing. It might get you more social in the short run, but then you drop off again and there is the hangover and you're like, this was stupid. You maybe even end up with the wrong people. Instead, you can just say, I'm going to go as I am right now. I might not make a lot of conversations, but just doing whatever I can do right now naturally is already going to make you better. And if you get that repetition, because you can do that 2 or 3 nights a week, without drinking, you can go out every day of the week. That's going to lead to those small changes that accumulate over time. And then you have a real new baseline. You have a new skill that's just with you. You don't need any push. You don't need any external substance to activate you into that new amazing mode that you always need to be in order to talk to people. This has happened for me now. I stopped drinking when I was 25, 26. And now I feel like I can speak as if I'm drunk all the time. The way I'm speaking right now, I used to only be able to speak like that when I was drunk. This was a big goal in my life when I started this journey of personal development, that I want to be able to just speak freely, speak my mind, and be okay with admitting everything about me, really. Of course, there's some personal stuff that I don't discuss on my YouTube channel, but I say what I think here, and this has been a long journey, but it's possible, I can guarantee you, and it's fun, because it's basically like being drunk. You're having fun with your words, fun with language, fun with other people. The sixth, we're almost at the end, the sixth lesson that I want to share with you is to not complain too much about the unfairness in the world, because there will be challenges, there will be lots of things that you don't deserve, that just happen, that make it very hard for you, and you feel like, why is it so hard for me? Why do other people not have to struggle with this? This is a bottomless pit. You can spend your whole life thinking about how unfair the world is. It's not going to lead you far. And in fact, you're also not ever going to be able to tally up all the injustices in the world and actually make a final judgment on what is fair and what is not. You just don't have the information. Someone might be advantaged in one area, and then they have a lot of other disadvantages. You might not even know what struggles they have. There's no point really in thinking too much about that. Instead, develop that attitude of seeing challenges as an opportunity and seeing even pain as something that can help you. You can start to love unfair challenges. You can say, yeah, this is unfair. Shouldn't have been that way, but it's that way right now. And in my lifetime, I'm not even going to be able to change that. For example, I'm not going to be able to change that there are prejudices against people of darker skin color. That's a fact I have to accept in my lifetime. I'm going to do everything I can to change that. But instead of getting upset and all gloomy about it, I'm going to say I'm going to find a way to overcome that and let it fuel me. Let it accelerate my personal development. Because yes, that is an unfair disadvantage that's stacked against me. And to overcome it, I need to be even better than everyone else. I need to be growing even faster. I need to be even more sincere, even more kind, even more effective, even more powerful, even more helpful for you guys. I take it as a motivation. And even the worst conflict, even the worst things that can happen in life, you can see a way to let it fuel you, to let it enrich you. I had a really bad fallout with one of my family members, really bad conflict. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot about my own family, my own culture. When your girlfriend might cheat on you one day, it's going to be devastating. But even that, you can see it as something that's supposed to make you stronger. It's going to make you stronger. You're going to survive, and you're going to be more emotionally resilient after that. I didn't get a job for some months at some point, and then I had to take some really weird job. I wanted to get a developer job. I wanted to start coding, but at some point I wasn't really ready for that, and then they took me on as a developer advocate. I didn't really understand what that was, so I said, yes, sounds like coding, something with coding, it's okay. And I hated that job, but I was in a company that was recruiting Indians for German companies. Through that company, through that work, I was only there for 2 or 3 months. I said I quit after that because I got a real developer job after that. But through those 2 or 3 months, where I took a job that was the only option for me, a little bit desperately, I discovered that there are so many highly educated Indians coming to Germany. I didn't really know about this before. I wasn't aware of this. This was 5-6 years ago when it wasn't extremely obvious yet. That helped me so much because that opened my eye to the fact that I could actually help those people, that this could become a new market in Germany, in Europe, in the world, in the West. I like to use an affirmation, in fact, every single day. If you haven't heard of that, it's something that I highly recommend you do. Install some affirmations to change your mindset. One affirmation that I can just give you, that you can use yourself immediately without having to do a lot of soul searching, is everything comes at the right time. I think that is the most powerful affirmation that I have ever discovered, and that, in my opinion, can exist. Every challenge helps me grow. The universe gives me exactly the challenges that I need to grow. Just say that every day in the morning. Make yourself believe that, because who knows if it's true or not? There's no way to find out what the universe does and how the creator or God makes things happen. There's no way to understand that ultimately. So why not just adopt a positive belief around that and say every challenge, everything that happens for a good reason and is going to help me. A form of brainwashing. But when there is no source of truth, you might as well just brainwash yourself with the belief that serves you best. And that also leads us to the very last, to the 7th lesson that I want to share with you to wrap this video up. And that is to transcend the worldly. This personal development journey, if you take it seriously, will lead you to a lot of success. It will lead you to new skills, earning opportunities, relationships. But you'll find that actually, when you reach these things, you don't necessarily feel much more fulfilled. You will always want more. In this worldly sphere, you will never be completely satisfied. That's part of the human condition. The earlier you realize that, the better. Because you will know that, yes, you want all these things for your life. You want to help people, you want to make money, you want to have a family. You want. But that can't really be the point of life, just to want things. Even helping other people can't be the point of life. You'll want to help more, and it's never going to be something that just is done. So you need to find a way to really enjoy the process, to really say, hey, now already I'm fulfilled. Right now is good. Right now is great. Right now is fantastic. Right now. Right now. Right now. That's not easy. If I am silent for too long here on this video, you will just go away. While in fact, I should make a video where I'm like silent for 50 minutes and just stare at you and say, how amazing is it to just be alive, to be a human being. Everything is already there. That sense of abundance usually comes through spiritual practice, where you connect with something that transcends the physical, the material world. You build a relationship with something higher. And that'll obviously immunize you from all the ups and downs in this worldly space, yeah? It will connect you with some deeper truths. But the point of that is really not to achieve something, right? Otherwise, you're putting it at a service. A lot of people do spiritual practice to be more productive at work. That's not the point. The point is to transcend and say, I don't need to achieve anything, actually. I'm part of a bigger plan. I'm part of nature, and everything is happening kind of by the laws of nature, and I have the pleasure of observing that. Those are really two opposing perspectives. The one we talked about so far is I have to make things happen. I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to learn. Now you can develop a almost contradictory perspective where you say, let me just observe everything, let it unfold, and really enjoy it, like a spectacle, like a theater. There are lots of traditions that teach you how to do that. Meditation, there's lots of Indian philosophy. And I highly recommend you get in touch with one of these traditions, because people have been thinking about these things for ages. That's also an indication that material progress doesn't really move the needle much when it comes to that deeper fulfillment. People were extremely poor in comparison to right now on the material level, but they already realized back then that this material progress isn't real progress. So they started thinking about these things a long time ago and started writing down volumes, whole libraries. You want to draw on that. You don't want to just start from scratch and say, I'm going to figure out these big questions. There are a lot of very intelligent, very wise people who have managed to tap into their own intuition, and the best insights have been codified. So you can find a tradition and build on that, benefit from that wisdom of ages. So in conclusion, man, I believe that you can be great. I think everyone can be great. Find your greatness. It's not going to be the same as mine. And I definitely don't want you to become like me, okay? I told you about the struggles. I told you about the dark sides of my path, and I've accepted them. I say, this is part of my life. I want to be an entrepreneur. It's going to be stressful in the beginning. I hope you can find something that's not going to be as stressful. It's not going to impact your health in such a aggressive way. But if it does, then I hope that you have the same strength to just accept that path and say, yeah, everything is going to be hard. Also, just living on without a purpose is going to be hard. And that's the hardest thing. You're going to die and get old anyhow. So why not do something hard that you actually believe in? If you want help climbing that hill, or maybe finding that hill that you want to climb, or maybe you've already found the hill and you're already climbing, or you're on top, but you want someone else to share that experience with, then feel free to reach out. I'm happy to help you with that. There is a link in the description where you can schedule a call with me, where we can talk about whether I can help you on a personal level. On that note, thanks a lot for watching. Samgachadvam. Namaskar.